Okay, so let's get going on lesson 16. So in lesson 16, this is where we add keyboard input. So we've figured out motion, now we need to figure out how we're going to control our sprites. And our combination of things we've seen previously with some new things we'll see today is what's going to allow us to control sprites with the keyboard. So go ahead and take a look at the code in the first bubble here, and this is a prediction task. So what do you think is going to happen with this particular block of code? Go ahead and pause the video here while you make your prediction, then come on back when you're done. So the only thing we see here that's new is this key down space. So obviously they're asking us to control something with the space bar. And hopefully you see that that is text that's at the position of 200, 200. So let's go ahead and run that and see how this works or what this is. So I run the code and notice it says false right now. But when I press the space bar, which is the optimal key, it changes to true. Let the space bar go and it goes back to being false. All right. Notice here the sizes are identical, so there's only one sizing here. So it's literally just testing to see if I'm pressing the space bar. And if I am, it says true, and if I'm not, it says false. Obviously, this code is running continuously because it's in the draw loop, which means I can keep running this process over and over and over again. If it was outside the draw loop, I would only be able to have this test once, and after that, it would not work again. Okay, so that's a little bit of what we're in for. So let's go to bubble 2. So in bubble 2, it says the program uses the key down block to detect whether specific keys are being pressed down. Run the code and try pressing the P and H keys. So we'll run the code and do just that. And so as you can see, we've got a sprite there. And when I press P, it changes to a pig. And when I press H, it changes to a hippo. And notice those keys work continuously. I can continue pressing P and H to toggle back and forth between the two. So they want us to add the R. Okay, so we're going to mimic these two. So notice they use the if block that we learned in the conditionals lesson with the key down button, which is the new button we have here in this lesson. Notice we also have key went up. We'll work with that later. But right now we're working with key down. So key down is the way of saying when I press a key. And then notice inside the if block, it's setting the animation. So it's literally setting what picture is going to display. Well, in the animation tab, you can see I have a hippo, a giraffe, a pig, and a rabbit. So clearly the R key is meant to set the rabbit. So we'll go ahead and go to the sprites block and grab sprite.setAnimation. And again, that's meant to be the rabbit. And then we'll recompile the code. So now notice H and P work just like we had before, and now R does as well. So one problem here is that the giraffe, there's no way for me to get back to the giraffe. It doesn't default ever back to giraffe. All right, it's just when I press a key. So let's code the giraffe from scratch. So I need an if block. And inside that if block, I need a key down block. And obviously we can press in here any key we want to control with. It doesn't matter. They give us some options by default, but you can press anything on the keyboard you want. Just make sure it stays in quotation marks. And then we'll set the animation, just like we did previously, and set it to be the animation of a giraffe. And now we should be able to get back to the default giraffe once I press the G key. Okay, great. So let's go to bubble 3 here. So now this one is about moving sprites. So we're going to use the if block with the key down block to actually finally move a sprite. All right, so in this one, as you can see, we've got a few different sprites set up, a bee, a fly, and a ladybug. We can run the code though to see that we are controlling the ladybug right now. Okay, so how does this work? So we start with an if block. And inside the if block, like we saw in the last one, we're going to get the conditional key down. So key down, and I'm going to control simply with the arrow pad. So I'm going to choose right for right now. So I want to move the ladybug to the right. Well, as you recall from an earlier lesson, motion is programmed with a counter pattern. So this would be an ideal place to program the counter pattern. So we're going to go ahead and grab a variable equals, x equals, and we're controlling the motion of bug. Even though it's a picture of a ladybug, the variable's name is bug. So we're going to say bug.x equals bug.x plus, pick a number. I don't know how fast you want the ladybug to move. That's the decision you have to make. I'm going to go relatively small since it's a ladybug and say 3. Okay, so let's go ahead and execute the code here. So I run the code and I see nothing new. It looks just like it did before. But now when I press the right arrow key, the ladybug moves to the right. Perfect. All right, so go ahead and take a moment, pause the video, try and program one for left. Same idea here, but take and program one for the left key. Again, pause the video and come on back when you think you're done, and we'll check out and see if you got it right. Okay, and through the magic of video editing, we're back here. And so as you can see here, we got now the code for left. So notice it's almost identical to what we just did, just two differences. So the key down is obviously left, and instead of adding 3, we're going to go ahead and subtract 3, because remember, my x values get smaller as I go to the left. So now my ladybug moves to the left, and my ladybug moves to the right. So I can make it do a little Billie Jean, make it do a moonwalk. All right, my ladybug can now move left or right. Okay, so this one, we have some gears here, and we want the gears to spin, but only when I'm pressing the space bar. So notice here right now, this code already works. All right, the gears already spin. So all we have to do is add the spacebar functionality. All right, so we'll start with an if bar or an if box. And then from world, we're going to grab key down. And again, the key with control here is going to be space, so we'll choose space. Now remember, if the key down is space, or if I'm pressing the space bar, what do I want to happen? Well, I want the gears to spin. Well, that's already all coded here. So all I have to do is take all 3 of these statements now and drag it inside the draw loop. And then go ahead and press the space bar. And notice, just like that, the gears turn. When I let go of the space bar, they stop. When I press it again, they start. Perfect. Everything works just as we expected.